Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto had the heart of a demon, part 1. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Uzumaki Naruto, Shinobi of Konohagakure. Recently promoted to Anbu, given the uncomfortably fitting name of Fox. Slowly, gradually closing in on his ultimate goal of becoming the Rakuten Hokage. However, today, all of his hopes, all of his dreams, every single one in his life, gave way to a pair of unfortunate circumstances on this day. The first, and most obvious of these circumstances was the fact that today was October 10, the day that he was conceived and condemned at the same time. Though the surprise that he had received on that day caused his usually depressed mood towards this day to sink even lower. Even though it had been half a year ago, it had seemed like yesterday that he had finally dragged his first true friend back to Konoha. They came to a bloody, violent end when Naruto and Sasuke, intentional or not, worked together to finally take out Uchiha Itachi, ending Sasuke's war against his brother. After finally bringing him back, after spending a month in the hospital, and after a meeting among the elders, clan heads, and the Hokage herself, in which Sasuke was reluctantly excused for all transgressions on the pretext that he acted within the best interests of his clan, which would in turn only improve Konoha, Sasuke was reinstated as a shinobi of Konoha. Naruto had received a wide array of reactions to bringing back the official last Uchiha back to the village. The elders, although they still resented him because it was him, still had to respect the fact that he had accomplished his mission, and looked at him with begrudging indifference, a good reprieve from the usual glares that they gave him, though not by much. The shinobi of Konoha openly acknowledged the fact that he had brought back one of the geniuses of Konoha. His friends all had different reactions to this, but they all basically said the same thing: good job, Naruto. Rock Lee hadn't changed. Looking at him was still the same as looking at a smaller Mito guy. He still trained constantly, recently surpassing his sensei's expectations, and opening the 8-gate far earlier than Guy had ever dreamed of. He still wore that appallingly green jumpsuit, 8 wrapped around his waist, absurdly heavy weights on his legs concealed by those orange leg warmers, eyebrows still incredibly bushy, hair still in one of the most unique bowl cuts ever seen in the world. The only truly normal part of his appearance was the Jonin vest that he proudly wore. He had been one of his loudest supporters on his return with Sasuke, though he did quiet down just long enough to whisper to Naruto, good job. You kept your promise to Sakura-sen. He gave him the most discreet nice guy pose that he could muster, though the gleam that came off of the perfect teeth of Lee left Naruto rubbing his eyes for the next hour. Hyuga Neji had become involved in the training of Hyuga Hanabi, the current heir of the Hyuga clan. Naruto had noticed how much the Hyuga genius had changed since their fight during the Chunin exams, evident by how he had laid off his cousin over the years. Neji had also acknowledged Naruto's accomplishment, although he seemed completely indifferent towards the situation. Tenten, also a Jonin, had taken a part-time job at the academy to teach the students about basic all-around weapons that every ninja uses. She had tried, on numerous occasions, to win the heart, or at least the attention, of a certain teammate, but eventually gave up, realizing a lost cause when she saw one. She too supported Naruto. Aburame Shino was just as mysterious as he had always been, and only gave Naruto a short nod upon his return. Naruto wasn't exactly sure what to make of the Jonin bug user's reaction, but decided to simply pass it off as a good mark for him. Hyuga Hinata. Naruto didn't think that there was any question as to how the timid Hyuga would react to anything he did. And although he was still oblivious to something that was blindingly obvious to everyone else, that being the recently promoted Jonin's undying affection for him, he still respected the girl for her complete trust and confidence in him and his abilities. Inuzuka Kiba. He, and his faithful partner, Akamaru, were training with his older sister, Hana, in becoming professional trackers, and eventually succeeding his sister. He had also joined the ranks of Konoha's Anbu squad, as he felt that his abilities would be much more useful, and probably more appreciated, there. As one of the ninjas who were on the original Sasuke retrieval mission, he still harbored some hostility towards the last Uchiha. So while he still accepted what Naruto had done in the name of Konoha, he did so with a very angry scowl, though he made it very clear to Naruto that it wasn't directed at him. Narushikamaru had already established himself as quite possibly the laziest ninja in Konoha since Narushikaku, so the simple fact that he was the first of the Konoha 12, if you choose to include Sasuke, to be promoted to Chunin, was already a fact that still blew Naruto's mind. Then he was promoted to Jonin. Then he was given a genin team to look after. The only upside to that would be the fact that he was given the next generation Inoshikacho trio as a team. Such a troublesome team to have to deal with, Naruto remembered him saying. But at least they were born to be able to work together, right? His reaction to Sasuke's return was little different from his reaction to everything else. It is kinda troublesome that you had to accomplish this mission about 8 years too late, but at least you did. Akamichi Choji, also Jonin, simply nodded his head in agreement with Shikamaru, whilst shoving another handful of chips into his mouth. Naruto simply smiled and asked if he wanted to join him in a celebratory visit to Ichiraku Ramen later that day. Yamanaka Ino was doing quite well for herself. Though if you can call being the only apprentice to Moreno Ibiki, head of the Anbu torture and interrogation force, the most sadistic bastard that Naruto had ever laid eyes upon, doing quite well for yourself, you must be either just as sadistic or equally as insane. Naruto figured that Ino was the former, though he would never tell her that to her face. After all, he had a lot to be thankful for because of Ino. She was the one who had pushed for his acceptance into the Anbu, being an Anbu herself, and she was always there whenever he needed a helping hand with something, or if Kiba wasn't around. He wasn't sure just why she was doing this, but he could remember that it started around the time he confessed that the main reason that he was trying to bring Sasuke back was because of a promise he made to Sakura. Ino, who had already given up on Sasuke immediately after she heard of his defection, immediately took pity on the boy. She figured that he knew that if he brought Sasuke back, Sakura would not leave his side. And considering how long he had been chasing after her, that must not have been an easy thing to admit to himself. So she made herself visible to him. After all, he was everything that a woman would want. Strong, good-looking, extremely caring, and determined to whatever he set his mind to, and fun-loving. Granted, his undying love for ramen was still something that she would eventually have to fix on him. She was up for any challenge that would present itself to her for the sake of her friend. The fact that he never responded to her subtle advances never once deterred her. Though her advances did come less and less. No Sakura. Her reaction had completely thrown Naruto off. Simply because there was no reaction. The moment he stepped through the gates, an injured and unconscious Sasuke on his shoulders, she had immediately taken Sasuke to the hospital, completely ignoring Naruto's presence. Naruto didn't blame her then. After all, if he were in her shoes, he probably would have done the same thing. Then the month came and went. Sasuke was finally cleared to leave the hospital, and Sakura was with him, practically every step of the way. What really got Naruto was the fact that Sakura hadn't said a word to him during the entire month. Sure, she was needed at the hospital to make sure that the Uchiha genius survived, but whenever he would stop by to visit, Sakura would simply get up and walk out of the room, claiming to have other work to do. The 5 months after Sasuke was released were torture for Naruto. Every time he attempted to talk with Sakura, she would run off, saying that she was going to visit Sasuke, just to make sure that he was okay. Then there were the countless missions that Sakura had requested that she and Sasuke do, under the pretext that he needed to get back into the groove. She also requested that it be them alone, as he didn't need to be around too many faces that he was hostile towards at the moment, once again leaving Naruto out of the loop, which only further pushed him in the direction of Anbu. It also didn't help that the elders saw fit to give Sasuke the rank of Jonin, as soon as he was healthy enough to do missions. But all of that was just drops in the lake, compared to the atomic bomb that Sakura had just dropped into Naruto that morning. He had just come out of the Ichiraku ramen booth for his morning serving of ramen, thankful for once that it was indeed festival day, as most of the villagers were in the newer parts of town, either preparing the festival, or preparing for the festival. He was about to head for the Hokage Tower, and see if Tsunade had some kind of mission for him. Anything to keep him away from the village for the day. However, to his immediate shock, he saw Sakura running up to him, looking like a schoolgirl that had just been asked by the most popular guy in the academy to dance. Naruto. He smiled widely. Sakura-chan is actually talking to me. I can't believe it. Hi, Sakura-chan. Is there something you need? Sakura caught her breath before finally looking up at Naruto, and, speaking in an overly excited tone, said, Sasuke and I are getting married. And that leads us to the present. Naruto, sitting on top of the Yondaime Hokage's stone head, looking down at the village, as it carried on with its day-long festival. Never before had he felt so depressed. Even his dream of one day becoming Hokage couldn't lighten the mood for the blonde-haired boy. Somewhere deep within him, part of him actually knew that this was how it would turn out. No matter what he did, no matter who he had hurt, Sasuke still remained the center of the Konoha universe. Yes, there were a few there who shared his opinions that Sasuke shouldn't have been treated like he was some sort of god, but in comparison to the overwhelming number of Uchiha supporters, they might, as well, have been ants in a jungle. The years since he had graduated from the academy had given him time to find something that many said that he didn't have, though he only began actively searching for it during his 2.5-year training venture with Jiraiya, the part of his brain that dealt with thinking. And although it may not have seemed that way to many, if not all, of his peers, he did indeed think about the things that happened around him. After all, he seriously doubted that he wouldn't have made the promise to Sakura if he hadn't been thinking about how she felt about the Uchiha traitor. So, on top of the Hokage monument, he tried to think about what the village, what Sakura had seen in the boys so much, that they were willing to completely excuse all of his sins, all of his transgressions, even going so far as to promote him. Yes, they may have been friends, and yes, he may have forgiven his friend for what he did, but he was also completely conscious that if it had been him that had committed all of these acts, he wouldn't have even been let back into the village. He had spent damn near his whole life trying to reach the point that he is now. The glares came less and less, the open insults diminished to almost nothing, and the elders accepted him enough to allow him to rise in the ranks of shinobi. And yet, Sasuke basically spit on the name of Konoha, but just about everyone welcomed him back with open arms. His thoughts carried him back to Sakura, but it didn't take much thought to figure her out. He basically summed her up in one sentence. I never had a chance with her. He wasn't exactly sure when her heart became so dead set on winning over the last Uchiha. Most of the time after, and during their academy years, her affections towards Sasuke were simply puppy love. However, sometime during their Team 7 time, she had grown something more for the boy. And, as much as Naruto had wished that she would have let it go, and turn her attention to him, somewhere, he knew that it would not be possible. So here he was, atop the massive visage of the fourth, looking down upon the village that accepted Sasuke, but shunned him all because of who they were. In another part of the village. Where the hell is he? Clad in her usual purple tank top, and purple skirt with black shorts underneath, because she felt that the standard issue Anbu uniform she had been given, should only be worn when doing actual Anbu-worthy missions, Yamanaka Ino strolled her way through the streets of Konoha. Searching for another blonde-haired, blue-eyed Anbu member. Considering that there was a giant festival going on, she would have thought that, in spite of the sheer number of people that would be in attendance, it would have been easy to find the only ninja that wore colors that made Rock Lee look like an actual ninja. However, she was shocked and slightly perturbed to find that her colleague was nowhere to be found. She had asked a few people at the festival if any of them had seen him anywhere, and though she had gotten simple I don't knows from her friends, she became somewhat confused with some of the older generations, which began with that brat had better not show his face here, and only got worse. As she went on, she had spent some time with Naruto before his induction into the Anbu, even before he admitted his reasons for wanting to bring back Sasuke, so she was not completely oblivious to the glares and stares that he received from the villagers. Back during their genin days, she had simply passed it off as their reaction towards all of his pranks, which she thought wasn't all that bad. His remodeling of the Hokage monument actually prodded a nice fit of laughter from her. Anyway, as the years went by, the memories of his past, good-humored pranks gave way to an avalanche of surprising deeds from the boy, including the completion of his first C rank, upgraded to B rank, mission, the first among the 3 rookie teams. And his unexpected victory over last year's number 1 rookie, the Hyuga genius, Hyuga Niji. However, the stakes continued to come to him. Even after his 2.5-year training trip, they came, though not in the numbers that they usually came in. At first, she thought that it was extremely childish for them to continue to hold a grudge against him, simply because of some harmless pranks that he made when he was younger. This was about the time when she began to suspect that there was some sort of deeper reason towards their hate for Naruto. It only seemed a little strange that he always seemed to disappear on this particular day. Ino, however, wasn't going to put up with her partner's mood anymore. When her partner wasn't in a good mood, his performance suffered greatly, which meant that their team suffered, as well. No, today she would make sure that her teammate would have at least a halfway decent time today. Now if only she could find him. After an hour of searching, she began to use at least a little bit of her intuition. Okay, he isn't in his apartment, he isn't at the ramen shop, and the Hokage hasn't seen him all day, so he wasn't out on any missions. So where else could he be? She closed her eyes for a minute, collecting her thoughts, then opened them back up, and took off. If I were as obsessed with becoming Hokage as he was, where would I go to be alone? Her answer led her to the top of the Hokage monument, and sitting on top of the head of the yondaime was Uzumaki Naruto. She was extremely grateful that his choice of clothing had taken a turn for the better since he came back. She remembered when he returned to Konoha after his training trip with Jiraiya. His clothing, while still atrociously orange, had been extremely toned down since his academy and genin years, and he had all but eliminated it from his clothing altogether with his present uniform, though it was still present in the form of streaks down the sides of his black pants, which continued up the sides of his black sleeveless shirt and onto the shoulders. He actually looks like a real ninja now. She remembered thinking to herself when she saw his new outfit. She walked up behind him, not bothering to conceal her presence from him. Oi, Naruto. Naruto stiffened for a second before turning his head back to greet her. Oh, hey there Ino. What are you doing here? After spending just a little bit of time with the boy, Yamanaka Ino, being the expert reader of faces that she was training to be, already knew about the mask that Naruto had tried to put on at that moment. She was also aware of the fact that whatever was plaguing him would come out whenever he was ready to let it out. So she simply carried on the conversation, as if everything were normal. Looking for you, you idiot. Why else would I be coming up here all by myself? And before you ask, the reason I came here looking for you is because I figured that a Hokage-obsessed person like yourself would probably find this place to be most comforting. Naruto let out a light laugh before scratching the back of his head. Yay, I suppose you got me there. It is a great place to be. If I could, I'd probably live up here. Ino took a seat next to him and stared out over the village. Yay, it is an awesome view. I remember the last time I was up here, when we were trying to stop the Jenna guy. I didn't get a chance to truly appreciate the view that you can get from up here then. Naruto simply nodded at the statement. This caused Ino to look over at him a little more. Even though she knew that there was indeed the mask, a silent Naruto was not something that she could deal with. Listen, I'm sorry if I brought up a sore subject for you. Sakura told me about how close you were to him. She didn't miss the slight tensing up that occurred in her teammate when she mentioned the pink-haired medical nin. So it's about Billboard Brow. What is it, Naruto? Naruto then looked over at her, allowing a bit of his mask to come off, revealing just a hint of sadness in his eyes. Ino's eyes widened. He had never let this amount of pure emotion show in front of anyone that she could remember, much less her. Sakura and Sasuke are getting married. Ino was, to say the least, shocked. Not because Sasuke had decided to marry Sakura. She saw that one coming from a mile away. No, her shock came from the fact that she had been completely wrong about Naruto. Till thought that he had a chance with forehead. This would be one opinion that she wouldn't keep to herself, however. And you are surprised by this. Despite everything that has happened, everything that Sasuke has done, the village, as a whole, still accepts him as a ninja. From what I have seen, Sakura has spent more time with him than she has with her own family. You should have known before you brought him back that she wasn't going to give up on him. She turned her head away from him, and sighed. I knew you were an idiot, but I had no idea that you could be this idiotic. Yeah, I know. Pathetic, aren't I? Ino turned her eyes back to him, now hugging his knees to his chest, hiding most of his face behind his knees. Only his eyes were visible. Even though part of me knew that no matter how good I treated her, no matter how many favors I did for her, no matter how many times I saved her life, she would only see me as a friend, I continued to chase after her, hoping that she would just forget about him and turn to me. He let out a small, sarcastic laugh. What a wild goose chase that turned out to be, huh? Ino started to feel bad for her partner, and then remembered why she was up here in the first place. It was bad enough that he was feeling like crap, but the fact that it was starting to rub off on her was not something she was going to accept. She stood up, and turned to him in a manner not unlike a mother would when she was demanding her child to go outside, and play rather than stay in, and watch TV all day. Alright, that's it. Uzumaki Naruto, you are coming with me. She grabbed his arm, and pulled him to his feet in a not-so-gentle manner. Naruto was immediately dragged out of his depression by her sudden actions. Huh. Hey Ino. Where are we going? He had managed to get in step with her pace after a few feet of stumbling, while she dragged him along. I really don't feel like going to the festival today. I know. That's why we aren't going to the festival. She walked along the path leading down to the village, an arm wrapped around the arm of a semi-reluctant Naruto. You are going to take me to get something to eat. And you are going to pay for the both of us. Now Naruto got scared. But Ino, you already know about. Ino cut him off right there. Yes, I already know about what the villagers think of you. She remembered the reaction that he had received from one of her favorite restaurants. They had just come back from a particularly gruesome mission in the Land of Water, and they were, to say the least, a little hungry. She had suggested one of her regular spots, and although he had his initial misgivings about it, which she simply attributed to his ramen obsession, he eventually gave in to her wishes. At first it was just the man that was supposed to show them to their seats. The moment he saw Naruto, he walked straight up to them, and in the most sincere voice that he could force out of his mouth, said, I'm sorry, but we are completely booked for the night. Ino stole a glance over his shoulder, and was not surprised to see that there were indeed rows of empty tables in the restaurant. She came here all the time, as this was one of the healthier restaurants in the village, so she was well aware of the amount of customers that they received at certain times. And aside from the fact that it was never usually full at this time of day, the restaurant didn't take reservations either. Apparently, he was a new employee, and wasn't aware of her frequent visits. Don't kid around with me. You don't take reservations, and there are plenty of open tables for us. Just show us your seats. He allowed his true feelings to show through, and sent an angry scowl towards Naruto. We do not serve the likes of him. And if you wish to take his side, then I suggest that you leave right along with him. Ino was angry, to say the least, and would have unleashed hell upon the poor, unsuspecting soul, if Naruto hadn't picked that moment to speak up. It's okay, Ino. I don't mind. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? And with that he jumped onto a nearby building, and bounded off to his apartment. She watched him jump off, slightly worried about her teammate. That was weird. It's almost as if he was used to this kind of reaction. She felt her anger return tenfold when she heard the man say, oh, how about that? One of our reservations just cancelled. Shall I show you to your seat? There's now a picture of her in front of the restaurant, banning her from ever entering. So she was familiar with his reluctance to eat in other places. And, as much as she didn't want to, this was supposed to be about cheering him up. That is why you are going to treat me to. She inwardly cringed at the fact that she was even considering this, but swallowed hard, and said, Ichiraku ramen. Naruto stared at her in complete shock, even, as he allowed her to pull her along with him. What's the matter with you? Ino felt his stare upon her. You never want to eat ramen with me. Every time I ask you, you always say that you want to keep your perfect figure and go somewhere else. Maybe I just haven't given it a fair chance before. She looked back at him with a friendly smile. All Naruto could do was smile back. Besides, I would think that you would actually like to enjoy your birthday for once. Naruto stopped right there. You know. She turned around and faced him. I did a little digging and eventually found it out. Though I was surprised to find that your birthday and the festival were on the same day. He just gave a light smile and nodded at her. So today, I will ensure that you actually have a happy birthday. She sighed and grabbed his arm. Tell you what. Since it is your birthday, it will be all the ramen that you can eat on me. Naruto smiled a little wider, and Ino was glad to see that it wasn't forced. It wasn't just a mask to try to hide his true feelings. There is still something there, but at least I can make him forget about it for now. Yamanaka Ino's attempt to help Naruto return to his normal self had become something of a three-way staring contest. The first was with the bowl of miso ramen that was sitting in front of her. Yes, she was supposed to be here for Naruto, but the closer that she had gotten to the ramen stand, the more she was beginning to doubt her own judgment. Is it really worth it? After all, I have been voted #1 healthiest ninja 5 years running. Am I really going to jeopardize that just so Naruto can be happy? Then she had engaged in a staring contest with the boy sitting next to her, inhaling his fourth bowl of barbecue beef ramen, and although his eating methods made her want to vomit what little she kept in her stomach, she was extremely grateful that he was at least eating the way he usually did. She had indeed bore witness to his usual eating ritual during some of their extended missions, as Anbu. No matter what the situation was, he ate the same way every time, high in quantity, and with much gusto. During their last mission, however, he had toned down his eating severely. When she asked about it, he simply replied that he thought he should enjoy his ramen for once. She didn't buy it one bit, especially considering that he had been deathly silent for the entire mission. Yes, she was glad that he had begun eating the same way he used to. She even welcomed the obscenely loud slurping noises that accompanied this. Their staring then turned to the people that were serving them. She hadn't met them personally before, but she was grateful to them for numerous reasons. As a boy, Ino had remembered with a slight tinge of guilt, Naruto never had any real friends. She had seen him on the playground many times, and although he did play with Kiba, Shikamaru, and Choji, it would never really last, as their parents always scolded him for going near their kids. The only reason her parents never scolded him was the simple fact that she never went near him to begin with. Part of her regretted never doing so for his sake, and yet another part of her was glad that she never did, also for his sake. Her father was neutral towards him, but her mother was particularly strict towards him. And seeing, as she was the one who usually came to pick her up, she would have been damned if she allowed him to go through the torture of listening to her mother yell at him. She had already experienced it more than enough, and it was far more tortuous than going through her father's mind training. Iruka-sensei was one of the only adults that actually accepted him, but she didn't really count him, as most of the older ninja community was generally neutral towards him. The only real people that he felt comfortable around were the people who ran the ramen stand. Tsuchi and his daughter Aim were actually grateful for his presence, and not just because he was one of their most reliable customers. They were kind of like an uncle and aunt to him, giving him small little pieces of advice whenever he needed it, sometimes even allowing him to sleep in the shop whenever he couldn't go home, when a few of the villagers got particularly rowdy and surrounded his apartment, waiting to stone the boy, not necessarily to death, but as close as they could. She immediately put these people on her people that I will admire for the rest of my life list. Hey Ino, your ramen is going to get cold, and trust me. Cold ramen is not something you even want to attempt to eat. Naruto spoke, thankfully without a full mouth. Ino turned her attention back to the ramen. True, she wanted to keep her perfect figure, and yes, she had purchased the healthiest bowl of ramen that the old man had on the menu, but, as she stared down at the bowl of noodles, her last words began to come back to her. Maybe I just haven't given it a fair chance before. While she had tried it once after the whole Jenny situation, she was becoming rather curious as to how many times that mission was coming back to her. She didn't really pay any mind then. Now, thanks to Naruto, she was getting ready to take her first true dive into the world of Ichiraku ramen. She picked up her set of chopsticks, broke them apart into 2 perfect pieces, to which Naruto loudly congratulated her on, as he could never get them to break in 2 as cleanly as she could. Gave a silent-eyed Akimasu, and took her first bite out of the bowl of boiled noodles. Then she took another bite, slightly faster than her first one. And before long, she was cheerfully chewing into her bowl of miso ramen. Wow. This is really good. I can't believe I haven't been here more. Naruto smiled widely, and finished slurping up the last of the juice. I don't care what anyone says. There is nothing better than Ichiraku ramen. Oi, Aim-ni-chan. I hope you are learning everything you can from it. Aim giggled softly at his comment, while Tsuchi feigned being offended at it. Naruto, come on. You're talking like I could die within the next few months. I'll have you know that I still have at least 15 years left in me according to my doctor. The only reason you know that is because I made you go. Aim spoke from behind her father like she was his mother. I swear, if I weren't here, you wouldn't keep up with your health at all. Ino decided to interject herself in this conversation. I kinda know how you feel. If it weren't for me, Naruto would probably be eating ramen 24 hours a day. Though, I suppose it wouldn't be so bad if it helps your business out. Aim looked at her, and smiled. She leaned in close, and whispered to her. Well, between me and you, whenever my dad isn't around, I do try to encourage Naruto to at least try to eat at other places, and try other things, but he never does. Ino glanced over in Naruto's direction to make sure that he wasn't paying attention, then over to Tsuchi. When she was sure that it was all clear, she began to whisper. Well, I don't think that it's because he doesn't want to. It's more like because he can't. I was with him one time when I tried to make him eat somewhere else, and he was kicked out before we could even get through the door. I don't know why, but most of the people of this village really hate him. Ino didn't miss the way that Aim's face literally plummeted during her explanation. I see. She sighed, and turned to Naruto, who was happily digging into his next bowl. Well, I can't say much. I will say that the reason for all of this hatred is completely baseless, and therefore utterly incomprehensible. Unfortunately, the only one who can tell you this reason is sitting right next to you. Ino looked over at her partner, thankful for this new piece of info. I was right. There is something deeper. And if he is the only one who can tell me about it, then I guess I'm gonna be in the dark for a while then. But I wouldn't worry myself over this too much if I were you. Ino turned her attention back to Aim, and was somewhat surprised to see a smile on her face. One thing that I know about Naruto is that if he has something he wants to say, he isn't shy about saying it. He will tell you when he is ready to. Ino really thought about what the woman told her right then. A small smile began to creep its way across her face. She immediately thought back to their first Chunin exam, when all of the genin were assembled in the classroom. She may have thought it childish of him to simply yell out that he was going to beat each and every person in that room, but looking back on it, he was simply telling everyone what he thought. He simply wasn't being shy about saying what he thought. She nodded her head, returning the smile. What are you two whispering about over there? Naruto, fresh off of his latest bowl of ramen, had turned his attention to the two female members of their collected party. Oh, nothing much. Just girl stuff. Ino sent her smile towards Naruto, who looked on in mild confusion. He looks cute when he's confused. Hey Naruto, why don't you go to the festival this year? It might actually do you more good, especially if you go with Yamanaka-san here, Tsuchi said while collecting Naruto and Ino's bowls. The sudden and brief drop in the expression on Naruto's face was not lost on those present, and each of them already knew that although some of his worst memories of his childhood were from this particular day. He was actually considering the idea of actually going with someone who didn't think ill of him. Sakura wasn't an option, since she seemed to not outright hate him, but definitely didn't want any sort of deep connection with him. Hinata would have been a good choice, if the girl would have just worked up the courage to ask him. Deep down, Ino had some misgivings about going to the festival with him. If the last time that she had been seen going with him somewhere that he wasn't accepted was any indication, then she would be in for a rough time if she did decide to go with him to the festival. And yet, just one look at her partner's face, and she knew that she wouldn't be able to do anything else. What do you call Naruto? Wanna hit up the festival for a while? Naruto was lost in thought for a while, probably weighing the pros and cons of going to the festival in the first place, let alone with someone else. Even if that someone else was just his partner. And after a few minutes of this he finally spoke up. I guess it wouldn't be all bad. Okay, let's go. Ino shot up from her seat, and keeping with her promise, was about to pay for the meal, but Tsuchi and Aim smiled and declined, saying that this was their usual birthday gift to their favorite customer, and that, as one of his closest friends, hers was also in the house. After giving a heartfelt thanks, and bowing deeply, which Naruto mimicked, she grabbed his arm, and they were off. Festival. The 20th annual Konoha Festival, celebrating 20 years since the brave and selfless sacrifice of a man who was considered by many to be the greatest Hokage ever. Celebrating 20 years since the defeat of the most powerful of the tailed beast, the Kyuubi no Kitsune. This was the one day that just about everyone in the village could forget about all of their problems, and either celebrate the defeat of a monster, or mourn the loss of a great leader or loved ones. And though he would never admit it, though he would never show it, deep down Uzumaki Naruto hated this day with all of his heart. This was the one day that the threats would actually seem like they would be carried through, the one day that his life was in the most danger. Never mind the fact that it was supposed to be his birthday, a day that he wished that he could at least celebrate in private. But no, it would not come to pass, as every year growing up, more and more people showed up outside his apartment with death threats, and weapons, and intent to kill. This was one of the reasons why he joined the Anbu. When he found out that they were secretly protecting him from most of the things that either threatened to kill or seriously injure him, even if some were rather reluctant, he was eternally grateful to them. However, this particular festival day was different. And it didn't take too much imagination to figure out why. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of the other blonde-haired, blue-eyed Anbu member running up to him, carrying something that looked like a baby. When she confirmed his guess, and told him about her own run-in with the creature, he had to stifle a laugh. Not because of the fact that it happened to her, but because he knew the reason why it happened, though he would rot in his grave before he told her that story. In all honesty, he wanted to be the one to get the little stuffed toy for her, but the stall owner, predictably, told them that he would not allow him to play at his stall. Not wanting to worry Ino too much, he came back with the first line that popped into his mind. That's okay. This game looks too easy anyway. I'll bet that Ino could probably beat this game with her eyes closed. The fact that she actually did surprised the hell out of him. But all of the games, all of the food, even the completely half-assed play of the Yandere defeating the Kyuubi, none of it really mattered to Naruto at that time. The fact of the matter was he was having a very good time. He would have to make sure that before this day was over to thank Ino for even thinking about wasting her day on him. Hey Naruto, can I ask you something? Ino broke through his thoughts so suddenly that he was actually surprised that she spoke. Oh, sure, go ahead. Well, it's just, do you remember the first Chunin exam that we took? Yeah, of course I do. During the preliminaries, I remember Sakura staring at Sasuke very intently. Well, I didn't think much of it at first. When I actually looked at her, it was almost like she was scared of him or something. Then after the fight, even though there didn't seem to be anything wrong with him, he was still taken away by the medics. I know it's about 8 years too late to be asking something like this, but I couldn't talk to Sakura about it, since she would get all depressed that Sasuke-kun was gone, and I am not even gonna think about asking your sensei that question. So that makes you my only candidate. Naruto listened on while Ino explained her reasons for her curiosity. He had a brief inner debate with himself about whether or not he should really divulge this information. Brief. You know about the whole Orochimaru thing, right? Well, apparently he has this forbidden ability that allows him to basically live forever. The only catch is that he needed to change bodies every 3 years. So what he did was he found ninjas that had the potential to become very strong candidates for him, and put his curse seal on them. The seal itself takes a lot of energy to use, but it gives the user a hell of a lot of strength. That is what he did to Sasuke, during the second round of the exams. Though, things didn't go as planned for him, as Sasuke killed him, as soon as he got everything he needed from Orochimaru. Ino listened on, extremely interested in what he had to say about her former crush. Kinda like a praying mantis. So during the prelims, they took him away just so they could make sure that the curse seal wouldn't take control of him. Kinda funny, isn't it? After everything we did to try and help the bastard, he turned around and dumped us like a sack of potatoes. But what about now? From what I've heard, seals like those can't be removed unless it's by the one who put it on. Does that mean it's still on him? Unfortunately, yes it is. However, Konoha took some special precautions. They placed another seal over that one. At the very most, it should keep it from taking over him until he dies, or until we can produce someone powerful enough to completely remove it, though I would put my money on the former happening first. Ino nodded her head at this, and turned her head forward. Wow. You guys must have had it rough. And the screwed up part about it was that our so-called sensei did practically nothing to stop it. I have seen how the other Jonin senseis did with their teams. Kurenai sensei did everything that she could think of to make her Genin a team. Asuma sensei, God's rest his soul, didn't need to do much since you, Shikamaru, and Choji were practically born to work together. Even Guy helped Lee, Niji, and Tenten to work together. Kakashi sensei spouted out this bullshit about how people who break the rules are trash, but people who turn their backs on their friends are bigger trash, then just sat back and watched as we basically killed ourselves from the inside out. Some team player he is, huh? Ino patted his shoulder, hoping to calm him down before he got too riled up. The last thing he needed was to make a scene in a place that he already isn't appreciated in. Now, calm down a little. He is a Jonin after all. I'm sure that if there was anything he could have done, he would have done it. What is he doing now anyway? She did catch that little sentiment that Naruto sent to her long since past sensei, and was truly grateful for it. I hear they're trying to cycle another Genin team through him, though last I heard Sakura and Sasuke are still the only Genins that have passed his test. He says he'll give it another 5 tries before he decides to go back to being an Anbu again. That would be a big help. I heard that he was one of the best I have seen in a while. Hope everything turns out okay for him. Ino decided to try and find a more comforting topic for discussion. In another part of a festival, a certain silver-haired Jonin finished the last of a series of sneezes that had plagued him for the last few minutes. Naruto looked up at the sky and saw that the sun was getting ready to settle beyond the horizon. We still have some time before the fireworks begin. Is there anything else you wanted to do? Dope. Naruto cringed slightly at his old nickname. There was only one person that called him that. Sure enough, walking up behind them was the raven-haired genius of his class, Uchiha Sasuke. One hand was in his pocket, the other hanging out, as it was accompanied by the arm of the pink-haired medic in Haruno Sakura. Sasuke, Sakura-chan. How are you guys doing? That's fine Naruto, but what about you? I never see you at the festival. And I know that you never come because I actually look for you. Sakura spoke to Naruto, not noticing Ino present. Naturally, that didn't exactly sit well with Ino. Oh, hey forehead, nice to see you, too. Sakura turned to her former friend, and was about to come back with some sort of witty comment, then took in the entire scene. Wait. You were actually here with him? Yeah, what's the problem with that? Partners can't be seen hanging out together. This was indeed true. She had come here with Naruto, as his partner, and nothing more. Sakura, however, either wasn't buying it, or wanted Ino to believe that she wasn't. Sure, you are here at the festival, alone, holding a stuffed teddy bear that he obviously won for you, and you are here, as just partners. Must suck down therein, doesn't it? I mean after all, you lost Sasuke-kun to me, didn't you? Ino couldn't believe what her former friend was telling her. Lost Sasuke to you? Are you kidding me? If anything I won, simply because I refused to continue to follow after a lost cause. Meanwhile, you were following after Sasuke like you did all those years at the academy, while you continue to ignore the one person who actually cared about your sorry butt. Naruto. Please, all he had for me was a little kitty crush. That is all it ever was, and that is all it ever will be. Obviously, she had completely forgotten that her former teammate was standing 3 feet to her right. Ino hadn't. You really are insensitive, you know that. I hope Sasuke dumps you like a sack of beans when he's done resurrecting his clan. Ino didn't really care that Sasuke was standing 3 feet to her right. She just grabbed a stunned Naruto's arm, and pulled him towards the seating area for the fireworks show, leaving a pissed off Sasuke, and a shocked Sakura behind. In the seats. Naruto had gone completely numb. He didn't feel a thing. Didn't feel when Ino dragged him towards the seats. Didn't feel when Ino gently placed him in one of the seats. Didn't even feel her try to shake him out of his daze. Sakura's words continued to replay itself in his mind. Naruto. Please, all he had for me was a little kitty crush. That is all it ever was, and that is all it ever will be. It played a few dozen times in his mind before she finally started tuning everything back in. Naruto, I'm sorry that you had to be there for that. I never should have started that fight. I didn't think she would be that much of a jerk toward you. Ino started to get worried when she saw the slight smile creep its way across his face, and then got downright scared when he started giggling like a madman. And Naruto. Thank you, Ino-chan. Now I can finally accept the fact that Sakura was never within my reach. I never had a chance with her. My so-called little kitty crush was nothing compared to the devotion that she feels toward helping that last Uchiha revive his clan. I guess I just needed something to just hit me right between the eyes, and say, guess what, dope? It's time to wake up, and smell the ramen. You will never, ever have any type of shot at getting with her. So thank you, Ino-chan, for providing me with that wake-up call. The smile that was present on his face spoke volumes for Ino, and she could do nothing more than smile back. You are very welcome. So tell me, how would you like to celebrate this newfound discovery? Naruto turned his head down, and thought for a second. Then, almost, as if a light clicked on in his head, his eyes widened, then narrowed, as an evil grin crept across his face. If you're up for it, I've got a killer idea. Ino nodded her head eagerly, and leaned in while Naruto whispered the blueprints for his first prank in over 8 years into her ear. You really think it will work? You do your part, I'll do mine. As long as neither of us messes up, this should go off without a hitch. Okay, then I'll stop by my house really quickly, and I should be back in time for the show to begin. No, Ino-chan. The real show begins when this one ends. Festival, and a fireworks show. Sakura, still latching on to Sasuke's arm, as if she had been born that way, led her husband to the exit of the festival. It had indeed been a great night for the both of them, though Sasuke would never admit to it in a vain attempt to keep up his cool, calm, and compass personality. So, Sasuke-kun, what do you say to getting in with the clan resurrection mission when we get home? Before said Uchiha could come up with a suitable response, or anyone for that matter, a female ninja in an Anbu uniform appeared in front of them. Uchiha Sasuke. Hokage-sama requests your presence at the Hokage Tower immediately. Sakura immediately spoke up in defense of her fiancé. Hokage-sama can't wait until the morning. It is still our day off, after all. It has to do with your cursed seal, Uchiha Sasuke. This, of course, got the attention of both jonins. Fine, then let's go. Sakura spoke in an annoyed tone of voice. Hokage-sama has requested to see Uchiha Sasuke alone. I am the Hokage's apprentice, so I am sure that she won't mind me going with him. Pardon me, miss, but I do believe that Uchiha Sasuke is perfectly capable of speaking for himself, if you would allow him to. Sasuke-san, I have orders from the Hokage herself to bring you to the tower alone. So either you go alone on your own, or I go back, and tell her that you wouldn't come, and she does it her way. And for your sake, I would suggest the former. Sakura was about to speak up, but Sasuke cut her off. Go home, and warm the bed for me. Sakura immediately softened up. Okay, but hurry, Sasuke-kun. She gave him a quick kiss on the cheek before walking off in the direction of their house. What is that word that one guy likes to use? Oh, right. Troublesome. He turned back to the Anbu. Okay, I'm ready. Hokage-sama will be waiting for you. And with that, the Anbu disappeared. Hokage Tower. Sasuke walked up to the tower 10 minutes after Anbu left him. He walked straight up the stairs and to the Hokage's office and was somewhat surprised that she was waiting for him outside the office. You called for me, Hokage-sama. Yay, that's right. I had some questions about the seal. Well, I'm here now, so ask away. Have you felt any sort of discomfort in the area of the seal lately? No? Anything that feels even remotely like what it used to when it took over your body? No? Do you feel any chakra flowing out of it or merging with your own chakra? No? I see. What is the point of all this? Sasuke was getting visibly annoyed. As you know, seals tend to weaken over time. That, coupled with the vast majority of cursed chakra that the cursed seal exudes, could lead to the seal breaking far earlier than it should. So the elders decided to do semi-yearly checks on your seal to make sure that it isn't deteriorating. And why did I need to come alone? Best not to worry Sakura in case anything is wrong. Well, I'm still me, so can I go now? Tsunade sighed. Sheesh, you're just as bad as Naruto. Difference is I can't knock you out, cause then the elders will get on my case. But yes, you can go home now. That was all I needed. Sasuke turned and left without a word. As he walked through the streets of Konoha, he saw a red blur pass over him. He wasn't completely sure, as he didn't have his Sharingan activated, but he could have swore that the blur had pink hair. Meanwhile, back at Sakura and Sasuke's house. The moment Sakura entered their house, she was in the bedroom, stripping off all of her clothes, digging out the skimpiest set of lingerie that she could find, which surprise was red, and wrapping herself in the shortest, thinnest red robe she had, which went down to her mid-thighs. She then sat on the bed and waited. 10 minutes later, her front door opened, and in stepped her Uchiha god. He walked straight to the bedroom. Hey. Sakura stood straight up and wrapped her arms around him. Hey. What did Hokage-sama want to speak to you about? Nothing much. Just thought that my seal might be breaking down faster than normal. But don't worry, I'm perfectly fine. Sakura believed him, but decided to play the worried fiancé. You sure? Yay, I'm sure. Now what about accomplishing that mission? Sakura saw no more need for words, and before they knew it, lips were locked, tongues were dancing, and a robe was coming undone. However, before anything really serious could happen, Sasuke broke the kiss, grabbed his head, and started groaning out loud. Sasuke-kun, what's wrong? Sakura asked worriedly, as Sasuke sank down on the floor. The seal got Hokage. Sakura wasted no time, tying off her robe while she was running to the door, then bounding out into the night. She reached the tower, and didn't bother going through the door, opting to go straight for her office window. Please, let her be here. Sure enough, face down in another pile of paperwork with 2 bottles of sake on either side of her, was the goddamn Hokage. Not wanting to favor subtlety, Sakura smashed her way through the window, and yelled, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade woke lazily. Damn Miss Shizune, it isn't even morning yet. Nag me when I actually have to look like I'm doing work. Tsunade-sama. Sasuke-kun seal. I think it's breaking. Alert at once, Tsunade stood up, and boomed at her apprentice, take me to him, now. They raced to the house, went into the door, and saw Sasuke, changing into his night clothes. Sakura was dumbfounded. Sasuke-kun, are you alright? He looked over to her. Of course, why wouldn't I be? Sakura, you told me that his seal might be breaking. Would you like to clarify? Sakura did not like the tone of voice that the Hokage was using. But it was true. I was right here. And he was on the ground clutching his head, saying that there was something wrong with his seal. Sasuke looked at her, slightly annoyed. No, I didn't even get back until a few minutes ago. Now Sakura was really confused. But I just saw you 5 or 6 minutes ago. You just got back from your meeting with Tsunade-sama. Sakura, you must be on something, because you are the only person I have seen tonight. That can't be true. He just went to see you because you had some questions about his seal. Right, Sasuke-kun. Sasuke's annoyed look grew. What are you talking about? Tsunade-sama didn't want to speak to me. Are you sure you are okay? Sakura's jaw dropped. Haruno Sakura, I want you in my office tomorrow morning. We need to go over some extra training. And with it the Hokage walked out the house, the promise of pain for Sakura written all over her face. Sasuke simply dropped himself into bed, and went to sleep, leaving it dumbstruck Sakura to try to figure out just what had happened that night. And what was in store for her tomorrow. Streets of Konoha. Though they kept it silent so that no one would hear, the 2 blonde-haired, blue-eyed Anbu couldn't contain the laughter that had been building up inside of them. I can't believe how well that worked out. I sure have missed doing things like this. The male of the duo said in a voice that was just begging to be completely unleashed. I know. That was absolutely brilliant. A true masterpiece of pranks. Ino was struggling just as much. But if you were just going to have me change into Tsunade-sama, why couldn't I just put on my Anbu uniform? Because I wasn't sure if that bastard was going to use his Sharingan to see if it was legit. Once I saw that he didn't, the rest was cake. Though now I have a new reason for being glad that I didn't end up with Sakura. She is one terrible kisser. Dare I say, even Sasuke kissed better than her. Ino could take it anymore. She let out a loud laugh that echoed throughout the village. But did you see her face when no one believed her story? I wish I had my camera for that one. Oh yeah, how did you make it so that Shintention no Jutsu jumped into his mind and took control? Box seats are fun and all, but there's nothing like being front row center to the greatest show live. And I was even able to alter his memory a little bit. As far as he knows, there was no Tsunade and no Anbu. He just went to the shop to get some eggs. Why didn't you just do that from the beginning? Then you wouldn't have had to use Shintention no. Have to be in their brain to modify it. I see. Still, very clever. We should team up again sometime. Ino simply smiled. As they reached the door to her apartment building, Naruto spoke up again. Seriously though, let's do this again sometime. Sure, I'm always up for another good prank. Naruto shook his head. As fun as that sounds, that's not what I meant. I mean you and me, let's just hang out again. You know, have some fun together. Fun that doesn't have to do with pranking. Ino looked at him for a second. Yeah, I would like that. He smiled. Well, I guess this is your stop, huh? Yeah, it is. She opened her door. Tomorrow. Yeah, back to missions, as always. But if we have some free time, I'll be sure to look you up. Ino smiled and nodded her head. She turned to walk into the building, then turned back and kissed his cheek. Night, she blurted out before rushing back in and closing the door. Naruto touched his cheek and smiled. Night, Ino-chan. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.